That belief that there is a fine line between madness and genius has persisted for many years. At this point, Dostoevsky's words come to mind. To be too conscious is a disease. A genius is someone who sacrifices a great deal in the pursuit of truth. But if one of those sacrifices turns out to be their own sanity, is it fair to label them insane? The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche was a man who spent his life in pursuit of truth, while at the same time striving to protect his sanity along that path. Although we see toward the end of his life that he ultimately lost that battle, the ideas he produced in the process made him one of the greatest modern philosophers in history. The concepts he introduced influenced humanity so deeply that traces of his thinking can be found in many works we consume under the label of popular culture. When we immerse ourselves in Nietzsche's world, in the loss of religion's power over society, in the resulting crisis of meaning, and in the human struggle to construct new meanings for life, we find it impossible ever to see existence in the same way again. And that is the subject of this video, the philosophy of Friedrich Nietzsche. God is dead, God remains dead, and we have killed him, but his shadow still looms over us. How shall we, the murderers of all murderers, comfort ourselves? Perhaps Nietzsche's most famous line, "God is dead," cannot be understood without first examining the era in which he lived. In the 19th century, the progress of the Enlightenment led Western civilization to place increasing trust in reason and science. As a result, people gradually drifted away from the long-standing concepts of religion and God. An individual living in this period no longer felt motivated to read the Bible, attend church, or pray to a deity. But the collapse of this divine authority, which had given life meaning for centuries, left behind a profound void of purpose. If we are no longer to live according to God's rules, then for what should we live? It was precisely at this point that nihilism began to rise. The belief that life has no meaning or purpose, and that the values we hold sacred are, in truth, nothing at all. It was against this backdrop that Nietzsche declared, "God is dead." This statement was not a cry of triumph over religion, but rather one of anxiety. A system that had long provided humanity with meaning was now collapsing, and that collapse, Nietzsche warned, would usher in an era of profound crisis. Religion and God themselves had not changed. It was the human mindset that had. People had distanced themselves from faith and destroyed the very values they once believed in. Yet nihilism, which emerged from this destruction, offered no real alternative. It only deepened humanity's sense of despair. Nietzsche, aware of this danger, introduced a concept meant to guide humankind through the dark waters of nihilism, the Ubermensch, or overman. All gods are dead. Now we want the overman to live. According to Nietzsche, the only way to overcome the meaninglessness of life was for a person to transform themselves into the overman. But what does this mean? The overman is someone who rejects the ready-made values of society and instead creates their own. Rather than following the path of the herd, they walk their own way, honoring their ideals as sacred and breaking through any obstacle that stands between them and their realization. The overman is confident, independent, and free, but also capable of danger, even ruthlessness when necessary. To reach such a state, Nietzsche said, a person must change their relationship with suffering. One must not flee from pain, but embrace it, feel it in all its rawness. For to Nietzsche, suffering is what elevates and strengthens us. He therefore warned against all forms of anesthesia that numb pain. He used alcohol as an example, but this includes all intoxicants that dull the mind. To Nietzsche, the greatest anesthetic of all was religion. Observing the devout around him, he believed that people turned to faith not out of strength, but to escape their personal suffering, thus depriving themselves of the growth that pain could bring. Of course, Nietzsche's idea of the Overman faced heavy criticism. He foresaw this himself when he wrote, "I claim that what I call the Overman, you will call the devil." Critics later argued that his concept inspired fascist ideologies, especially that of Nazi Germany. Adolf Hitler's philosophy, they claimed, bore striking similarities to the Overman ideal. The creation of a superior Aryan race, the ruthless pursuit of an ideal at any cost. Because Hitler admired Nietzsche, many condemned the philosopher posthumously. But if Nietzsche had lived to see Hitler's rise, it is far from certain he would have supported him. Nietzsche was neither a German nationalist nor an anti-Semite. His Overman was a spiritual concept, not a racial one. Nevertheless, Nietzsche's ideas influenced not only totalitarian leaders, but also literature and popular culture. The creators of Superman, for instance, initially designed the character as a villain and explicitly acknowledged their inspiration from Nietzsche's concept of the Ubermensch. Likewise, Jean Anouilh's novel, Martin Eden, was written in part as a critique of the Overman's ego and selfishness. Films, novels, and art across the world continue to echo Nietzsche's vision. The reason his ideas resonate so deeply is perhaps that they awaken something primal within each of us, a will that refuses to yield. For Nietzsche, this is the will to power, the fundamental drive behind all living things. While Freud spoke of the pleasure principle and Viktor Frankl of the will to meaning, Nietzsche believed that neither pleasure nor meaning is what truly drives us. Instead, every being, human or otherwise, strives to expand its power, to affirm its existence with strength. From this insight, Nietzsche identified two distinct moralities, the master morality and the slave morality. The master morality values strength, courage, and ambition, virtues that create power and greatness. The slave morality, on the other hand, arises from weakness and resentment. It redefines strength as evil and weakness as good. For the slave moralist, forgiveness and humility are virtues. For the master, they are masks for fear and impotence. In the ancient world, Nietzsche observed, only the master morality existed. Good meant powerful, noble, and life-affirming. Bad meant weak, poor, or pitiful. But as the weak grew in number, they revolted by creating their own moral system, the slave morality, in which humility replaced pride and compassion replaced strength. This inversion of values, Nietzsche argued, marked the birth of modern morality and the beginning of humanity's alienation from itself. Among Nietzsche's many provocative ideas, some are less controversial yet equally profound. Those concerning time and fate. To him, time is not linear, but cyclical, an eternal recurrence. Everything that has happened is happening and will happen, will occur again and again, endlessly. He expressed this idea as follows: this life, as you now live it and have lived it, you will have to live once more and innumerable times more, and there will be nothing new in it, but every pain and every joy, every thought and every sigh, and everything unutterably small or great in your life must return to you, all in the same succession and sequence. If everything repeats eternally, how should we respond to fate? Should we resist it or accept it, even love it? Nietzsche's answer was Amor Fati, the love of fate. It means embracing everything that happens to you, not with resentment or regret, but with love and gratitude. Amor Fati, let that be my love henceforth. I do not want to wage war against what is ugly. I do not want to accuse. I want to learn to see as beautiful what is necessary. Most people, Nietzsche said, blame fate and imagine alternative lives they might have lived. But for him, greatness lies in the opposite, in loving the life that is, and finding beauty even in its pain. Does this not contradict his idea of the Overman? The Overman creates his own destiny, while Amor Fati urges acceptance of the one we are given. Perhaps, Nietzsche suggests, wisdom lies not in choosing one path over the other, but in balancing both, striving where we can and embracing what we cannot change. In Nietzsche's own life, Amor Fati became both truth and salvation. He suffered from chronic illness, his books sold poorly during his lifetime, and his romantic relationships ended in failure. Yet he came to see these hardships as necessary parts of his existence. My formula for greatness in a human being, he wrote, is Amor Fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity. His long illness, he said, had given him a higher kind of health. Indeed, what does not kill me makes me stronger. Ironically, the period when Nietzsche produced his most profound philosophy was also when his mental health began to decline. According to legend, the breaking point came one day when he saw a horse being whipped in the street. Overcome with compassion, he rushed to the animal, threw his arms around its neck and cried, "I understand you." He collapsed moments later. From that day forward, Nietzsche never fully recovered. He suffered paralysis, lost his ability to speak and walk, and spent his remaining years in silence. In the end, one of the most powerful figures of modern philosophy was crushed beneath the weight of his own genius. And yet, in that tragic fall, he fulfilled his own creed, to think fearlessly and to face the abyss without turning away. Nietzsche proved that to think deeply is to risk everything, that philosophy, pursued honestly, demands both brilliance and madness.